Imagine an empire so vast it stretched across the Sahel, its wealth glittering with gold, its scholars writing in books while Europe still stumbled in darkness. Now imagine its end, not from famine or betrayal, but from thunder, the thunder of gunpowder. On a dusty plain near the Niger River, in the year 1591, two worlds collided. The mighty Songhai Empire, masters of cavalry and river trade, against a Moroccan army armed with something Africa had rarely seen in open battle, cannons. The clash would not just decide a war. It would shatter one of Africa's greatest empires. But before we dive in, if you love untold African history, stories of forgotten empires, and moments that shaped the world, then this is a channel for you. Hitting the like button, subscribing, and dropping a comment means the world, because it keeps these voices alive and helps bring forgotten stories back to light. The Songhai Empire was no ordinary kingdom. By the mid-1500s, it was the largest state in African history, bigger than Mali before it, bigger than Ghana before Mali. It stretched from the Atlantic coast deep into the Sahel, controlling cities like Timbuktu, Gao, and Jen, crossroads of trade, culture, and religion. Gold flowed through its veins. Salt, cola nuts, slaves, manuscripts, everything passed through Songhai markets. Scholars from across the Islamic world flocked to Timbuktu, where libraries housed tens of thousands of manuscripts. Imagine rows upon rows of leather-bound books, while outside caravans of camels carried goods across the desert. At the head of this empire stood the Askias, rulers who commanded not just armies, but the loyalty of traders, scholars, and warriors. Their cavalry thundered across the plains, feared from Hausaland to the Tuareg frontier. But even the greatest empires have cracks. And in Songhai, cracks were beginning to show. Across the desert, Morocco was ruled by Sultan Ahmad al-Mansur, known as al-Dahabi, the Golden One. Al-Mansur was ambitious. He had watched Spain and Portugal grow rich from the New World and Africa's coasts. Morocco had gold mines, but he wanted more, especially the gold fields of the Niger. And beyond wealth, he wanted glory, to make Morocco a superpower, to rival even the Ottomans. But how could Morocco, a smaller state, challenge Songhai, an empire with tens of thousands of warriors? Al-Mansur had a secret weapon, gunpowder, cannons, muskets, weapons that could shatter walls and scatter cavalry. And he had allies. The Ottoman Empire had spread gunpowder warfare across North Africa. Moroccan armies trained with arquebus, early muskets. So Al-Mansur raised an army, not tens of thousands, but a few thousand, hand-picked, elite, equipped with the latest firearms. And at their head, he placed a Spaniard, Jitter Pasha, a eunuch once enslaved, now commander of an army. Their mission, march across the Sahara, strike at Songhai, break the empire. The Moroccan army numbered perhaps 4,000 men, half of them arquebusiers, men with muskets, and the rest cavalry and artillery crews. But the real challenge wasn't Songhai. It was the Sahara. Imagine thousands of men, cannons, powder, food, water, all dragged across endless dunes. Camels collapsed in the heat. Soldiers staggered under the weight of thirst. Sandstorms howled. For months, they trudged forward, chasing mirages. This was not just a military expedition. It was survival, but they made it. Against the odds, the Moroccan army reached the Niger Bend. Ahead of them lay Songhai territory. When news reached Gao, the Songhai Emperor, Askia Ishak II gathered his forces. Tens of thousands of warriors rallied to his side. Cavalrymen with spears and swords, infantry with bows, and the loyalty of vassal states. To Songhai, this Moroccan invasion was almost laughable. 4,000 men against an empire of perhaps 30,000 or more warriors. Songhai had the numbers. Songhai had the home advantage. But what Songhai didn't have was gunpowder. Still, confidence ran high. Askia Ishak's army moved swiftly to confront the invaders. The decisive clash came near a village called Tondibi, north of Gao. Picture it. The plain of Tondibi, the Niger River glimmering in the distance. On one side, Songhai's massive host, cavalry in glittering armor, warriors chanting, drums beating. Dust clouds rose from their numbers. On the other, The Moroccan army, small, disciplined, their cannons positioned, muskets loaded, smoke already hanging in the air. The battle began with a shock. Songhai unleashed their war cattle, massive herds of bulls, driven forward to break Moroccan lines. Imagine hundreds of animals thundering across the field, horns glinting, dust rising. But the Moroccans fired their cannons. The explosions panicked the cattle, turning them back into Songhai ranks. Chaos erupted. Then came the musket volleys. Rows of arquebusiers fired in unison, smoke belching, bullets tearing through armor and flesh. Songhai cavalry charged, but the thunder of gunpowder shattered their advance. For hours the slaughter raged. Songhai's numbers meant nothing against Moroccan firepower. Horses fell screaming. Drums were silenced. The empire's pride was broken. When the dust settled, the Songhai army was shattered. The Moroccans marched into Gao, then Timbuktu, then Jan. The jewels of the Niger Bend fell one by one. But here's the irony. Morocco had won the battle, but they could not hold the empire. The Sahara that nearly killed them on the march now cut off reinforcements, governing vast territories, so far away was impossible. Songhai's empire was broken, but in its place rose chaos. Local rulers carved their own states. The golden age of Timbuktu faded. Scholars fled or were enslaved. Libraries were looted. 1,000 years of Sahelian empire building, from Ghana to Mali to Songhai, ended in smoke at Tondibi. The Battle of Tondibi is more than just a story of guns versus spears. It's a turning point. It marks the dawn of a new era in African warfare, where gunpowder changed the balance of power. It's a tragedy, too, a moment where one of Africa's greatest civilizations was undone not by numbers, not by skill, but by technology imported across the sea. And it's a reminder, empires, no matter how mighty, can fall in a single day. Empires are not eternal. They rise with ambition, they fall with fire, and sometimes they fall in silence. The Battle of Tondibi was not just Morocco versus Songhai. It was tradition versus technology. It was the last stand of the great empires of the Sahel. And though the Songhai Empire fell, the memory of its cities, its scholars, its warriors still lives on. In the manuscripts of Timbuktu, in the ruins along the Niger, in the legends passed down through generations. If you made it this far, you're more than a viewer. You're part of this journey. Hit like, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Because the forgotten corners of history deserve to be remembered.